If you follow the tech world, you're probably familiar with the Chinese giant Tencent. Tencent is the largest Chinese tech company with a market cap of $376 billion, and they have their arms in everything from gaming and social media to payments and investing. But likely their most notable product is their super app, WeChat. WeChat is basically ubiquitous with a total of 827 million users within just China. And this ubiquity isn't surprising given that WeChat attempts to do everything. You can buy groceries, book planes and hotels, make payments, message people, read the news, get food delivery, have a video call, play video games, and basically whatever else you want. For years, American companies have looked at WeChat with pure envy, as they too want a super app that encompasses every aspect of people's lives. And it seems that the latest tech billionaire to jump onto this bandwagon is Elon Musk, who wants to turn X into an everything app. He says that for X to succeed, the platform needs to compete with YouTube, LinkedIn, FaceTime, dating apps, and for some reason, the entire banking industry. Given that Elon basically has infinite resources, actually developing such an app and putting it in front of people would not be too difficult. But actually getting people to use it? Well, that's a whole nother story. Google, Facebook, and Apple have been trying to do this for over a decade now, slowly expanding to one industry after another. But to this day, they're all very much dependent on their hero product. 58% of all of Google's revenue still comes from search ads, 52% of Apple's revenue still comes from the iPhone, and 96% of Meta's revenue still comes from just Facebook and Instagram. And that's despite these companies expanding to dozens and dozens of sectors and industries, often betting as much as $100 billion. Clearly, infinite money and resources have not allowed any of these guys to create a true super app. So here's why a super app has never worked in America and why X won't be any different. Likely the biggest factor preventing a super app from blowing up in America is public hesitance. The majority of the public already feels that big tech has too much power, and they feel no need to start using even more offerings from any one of these companies. And whenever a big tech company tries to push such a vision, people not only tend to not buy in, but often resist. Likely the best example of this was with Google+. If you're not familiar with Google+, it was basically Google's attempt to take on Facebook and create their own social media platform. They were relatively early too, as they would launch a network in mid-2011. On paper, Google Plus actually started off pretty strong. Within 2 weeks of launch, they got 10 million users. Within a month, they had 25 million users. And within 2 years, they had over 500 million users. Surely, this was a massive success, right? Well, that is until you peel back the layers. You see, while Google was able to get a bunch of users on board, these weren't exactly excited or loyal users. For example, Google made it nearly impossible to open a Gmail account without creating a Google Plus profile. They also locked a bunch of useful functionality behind Google Plus. If you wanted to see reviews from your friends, you needed Google Plus. If you wanted to see the leaderboards on the Play Store, you needed Google Plus. If you wanted to use Google Hangouts, you needed Google Plus. Likely the worst infraction though was when Google required users to have a Google Plus account to leave comments on YouTube. This move generated so much backlash that one of YouTube's founders, Jawed Karim, came out of his 8-year slumber to say, "Why the F do I need a Google Plus account to comment on a video?" All of this backlash would lead to Google rolling back many of these policies. But it's not like things would have played out any differently even if they hadn't rolled these back. The reality was that while they were able to get over 500 million accounts, 90% of user sessions lasted less than 5 seconds. And Google would eventually end up shutting down the platform in 2019. Now, you might be inclined to say that this failure was largely just because Google did not understand the social media space. But honestly, I don't think that would have made much of a difference, which brings us into our next example, Threads. I think we can all agree that Meta is the undisputed king of social media with multiple platforms with billions of users each. So you would think that they would have a great shot at taking down Twitter, especially given the poor optics after Elon's takeover. And to Threads' credit, they did have an insane launch, reaching 100 million users within just 5 days. But this was followed by an explosive fall as well, as Threads would lose 80% of its daily active users within just 1 month. And Google Plus and Threads are just two notable examples. There's plenty of examples just like this across tech. the Microsoft Zune, the Windows Phone, Bing, Edge, the Google Pixel, Google Meets, Google Classroom, Bing Maps, Google Bard, and on and on and on. It seems that these tech leaders think that people will be super ecstatic about having yet another big tech account or service. They expect people to be like, "Oh wow, I can do Twitter on Threads now? This is a game changer! I can't wait to ditch Twitter!" In reality, people are more like, "Oh cool, Meta has a new app now? I'll check it out." None of this is to say that these companies can't launch a successful product in an adjacent or even completely different industry. But the bottom line is that these companies' resources and ubiquity doesn't exactly make it any more likely that these new products will succeed, especially on the scale that you would expect them to succeed. And that's largely because it's only these companies and their leaders who are actually jumping up and down about the idea of a super app. Sometimes big tech is able to overcome the odds and launch a new successful, widely used product in a completely different industry. But they're not home free yet, because now they have to make the venture actually worthwhile, which is an even bigger challenge. Likely the best example of this is Apple's foray into the financial industry. In early 2019, Apple announced that they were going to launch a credit card. A credit card that easily integrated into the Apple ecosystem, came with a beautiful UI, and encouraged strong financial habits. From the very beginning, credit card enthusiasts weren't a big fan of the card. While they didn't have anything particularly bad to say about the card, they simply felt that there were better options on the market in terms of rewards and benefits. But despite their concerns, the Apple Card would go on to be a massive success amongst the general public, growing to over 6 million cardholders. It turns out that the average person far preferred the simplicity and convenience of the Apple Card over maximizing credit card points with Amex or Chase. And that's still the case to this day. The general public still really likes the Apple Card. The same, however, cannot be said about Goldman Sachs, the issuer of the Apple Card, who has lost over $1 billion largely due to Apple's lack of understanding of the credit card market. You see, Apple largely approached the Apple Card with the tech mindset, and that's largely why it was so well received. But this was also the card's biggest pitfall. For example, with tech, you want your products to be as widely accessible as possible. That's why Apple kept the credit requirements for the Apple Card super low. They wanted it to be as easily accessible as possible and to make it easy for first-time credit card holders to build their credit. But while that's a great sentiment, it also led to a quarter of their credit card loans going out to people with credit scores below 660, leading to the worst bank loss rate of any big US card issuer. But not only is the Apple Card losing money on its subprime customers, they're also not making any money on their good-standing customers. Thanks to the Apple Card's great UI and insistence that you pay off your credit card bills, making money on good-standing customers is nearly impossible. This isn't to say that Apple has to be predatory in order to make money. Many Amex cards, for example, don't even allow customers to carry balances. But Amex is still able to make a bunch of money from these customers because they charge annual membership fees and have other modes of monetization. Apple, however, is stuck in a very tricky situation. Their subprime customers are defaulting left and right. Credit card enthusiasts don't want anything to do with the Apple Card, and their average customers always pay their entire balance and never pay any interest. Yeah, I don't think you'd be surprised to hear that Apple has agreed to end their credit card and savings accounts partnerships with Goldman Sachs. But honestly, I don't think Apple could have really avoided this fate. The reality is that it takes time to truly understand and compete in an industry such as credit cards. Immediately launching to 6 million cardholders, much of whom have never had a credit card before, is bound to cause issues, which brings me into the fundamental difference between China and America. I don't want to get too political here, but the reality is that launching a product in America and China are very different. For a product to truly be successful in China, you very much need the blessing of the CCP, which companies like Tencent already have. That's why they're able to expand into any industry or sector with ease. They're often the biggest player in that industry, or they're even the first player in that industry. This makes capturing market share a walk in the park, but it's completely different in America. When an American company tries to create a super app and expand to different industries, they're competing with highly established and competitive players and brands. Apple, for example, was taking on American Express, Chase, Citi, Capital One, and all of the other big banks. But we don't even have to look at a different industry, as this is true within the tech industry itself. With Google+, Google was competing against Meta. With Bing and Edge, Microsoft was competing against Google. And with the Windows Phone, Microsoft was competing against Apple and Google, and there's so many examples just like this. Any industry that these guys want to expand to is already dominated by one of their biggest rivals, and unless these guys let up or drop the ball for some reason, expanding here is nearly impossible. So, ironically, one of the biggest factors preventing a Tencent-style monopoly is the big tech oligopoly. None of them are going to let the other eat their lunch. But even putting that aside, Americans simply aren't interested in a super app. In fact, they actually like having separation. Take the financial industry, for example. You can have basically any one of your financial needs be taken care of by Chase or Wells Fargo or any one of these big banks. But the average American doesn't just have one Chase account or one Wells Fargo account. They actually have 25 to 40 financial accounts. They have a few checking accounts, a few savings accounts, one or two HSA accounts, a couple of credit cards, a couple of payment platforms, a couple of investing and trading platforms, a few loan providers, and a few financial management software providers. The reason being that 1, they like separation, and 2, each account is good at something specific, whether that be investing or credit cards or mobile payments or whatever. And it's the same thing with tech. People have their favorite social media apps, their messaging apps, their streaming services, their games, their browsers, their emails, their operating systems, and so on. Americans tend to choose the offering they like the most from each sector to create an assortment of tech services that let them enjoy the best of all worlds like a true free market. And until that changes and Americans want a product just because it's from X or Meta or Google or whatever, big tech really has no chance of creating a true super app. With historically high interest rates, the appeal of bills and bonds is higher than ever, yet traditional brokerages haven't really adapted with the times. They still expect people to use clunky bond tables, scroll through long overwhelming lists, and even use virtual keyboards till recently. And that's why we created our own modern bond platform, Silo. At Silo, we prioritize the user experience and the ease of finding and investing in the issuers you know and trust, so that you too can easily lock in high yields. Also, choosing a strong user experience does not mean sacrificing on safety. Every Silo account is insured by $500,000 in SIPC insurance and $2.5 million in FDIC insurance. Also, all funds deposited on the platform will be maintained by our trusted custodian, Interactive Brokers, who has experience managing $373 billion worth of assets over the past 45 years. So, if you're looking for a modern way to invest in bonds, please consider checking out Silo in the description below. Would you want a super app? Comment that down below. Also, surprisingly, it looks like OG Facebook is the closest to creating such a super app, at least within the social media space. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.